Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, man. What a time to be alive, man. It is a ghost town out there as everyone's been completely wrecked. No Adam today, who is helping two of our teams who have completed their migration as of a few minutes ago over on Migrate Funds. So good success over there on the platform. Excited to talk with Sergio here from Meebits. Been a long time NFT fan, long time Meebits fan. Man, it's exciting to get back into NFTs, one of the funnest cycles of all time and one of our favorite sectors, as we have began to enter this new emerging world of NFT strategies, which we launched with Nakamoto strategy. Maybe we'll cover it in a little bit, but Chris, how are we feeling today?
What is good? What is good? Good morning. Feeling good. Got some migrations finished up, and I think that just strategies are the most exciting thing that's happened to NFTs and almost in a way the entire market over the course of the last year. A ton of noise has been drowned out from like the meme coin sector and everything else, but I think strategies are kind of like one of the bright north stars that we can kind of look for that are like a standout success. And so it's cool to see different teams get a bunch of different opportunities and different ways that they're integrating the strategy into their tokens and into their communities. And I think Meeb strategy has a pretty good concept, and I think that they've got some good traction. So excited to learn more with Sergio.
Yeah, it's exciting to say the least. Got about 100 people here on the live stream, so I've pinned up to the top these spaces as well as the live stream that Chris and I are on. So please share that if you're in the crowd, and a lot of people tend to listen to this in the afternoon. So yeah, without further ado, Sergio, man, first, appreciate you for coming on. I'm sure you're probably quite busy, but it's been a long time coming to connect with you. So appreciate you for sharing your time with us this morning.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the invite. I wish I'd known there was a live stream. I would have showered and like jumped on camera.
Hey, man, just hop on.
Yeah, I could send the link if you want. Generally, when we do these like two-way, audio, video, large majority of people tend to opt just for the spaces itself. So we kind of generally do the default there. But I'm gonna have to remember that for next time, man. It's cool that you do it. I guess being docs helps a little bit, right?
Yeah, I when I came into crypto back in early 21, didn't really know like not being doxxed was an option. And I like being doxxed though. I think it's actually helped me personally on like my growth. But I definitely also always respect and appreciate the people that remain anonymous. And I think it's a pretty cool feature of our space that you can trust someone based on their actions, right? And they can really create history of what they've done, and people kind of like give them that social credit, not from like what they look like or when they went to school or what their last name is, but really from what they've done and achieved, or bad things that they've done, and obviously that creates negative stuff. But it was one of the big shocks. I spent my the bulk of my career in Wall Street. I was there for 12 years, and it's it's very different. Where over there, you walk into a room and where you work at, what your position is, where you went to school, where your family's from. It's all more relevant than actually like what you've done and who you are as a person. So I appreciated that when I came to crypto.
Yeah, I've been following you for quite a while. Chris and I ended up joining Emblem Vault in 2022. So before that, was just a NFT degen trader, but had been in the space since 2016. Chris and I, always, both of us also just been docs this entire time, just being the crazy people back in the early days who were the lone people. It felt like we were, the small bunch, but in NFTs, it does seem like being doxed helps, as it is, a very culturally intensive community, that prides themselves on artistry as well as kind of just being, upfront about the values and such. But, moving forward from that conversation, you mentioned that you were on Wall Street, and I'm sure a lot of people know the stories, but we have kind of a wide variety of communities across different products. Could you just give a little background on yourself, as well as how you came to acquiring Meebits from Yuga Labs, which was originally from the CryptoPunks team?
Yeah, the Meebits, the redheaded stepchildren of the NFT world. I was, like I said, working on Wall Street, kind of missed the crypto trade a couple of times. One very sadly early on, Fred Ursum, who co-founded Coinbase, was one of my colleagues, and he's the one who first told me to buy Bitcoin at like $12, and obviously ignore that. But one thing that stood out from my time, and listen, 12 years, and I loved every single one of them. I was really having fun, and I enjoyed what I was doing. So that's one of the reasons why I was not, really making any changes. But one thing I did realize, I had a lot of smart colleagues that left for crypto through that time. And then usually, after the crashes, which obviously are very public, everybody knows when Bitcoin's down so much because everybody's like trying to dunk on the others who probably made a lot more money. Realized they never came back. They stayed there building. They really enjoyed it when I talked to them. So that was a big signal to me. So fast forward to 2020, COVID crash. I used to travel a lot for work, so I spent a lot of time in airports doing international travel. I realized that there was no way COVID was going to be contained to like this city in China, and I made some good trades, and I had some leftover cash from those. And that's when things were going down a lot. I'm like, the government's not going to let this happen. They're going to print money. What's the most reflexive asset? And I ended up buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, and forgot about it for like 9 months as the world was, going through its crazy 2020. And I opened up my Coinbase account again, or the app, I guess, in November of that year. So my balance, and I was like, oh shit, I should really start learning about this because it's a meaningful amount. And that's when just trying to like understand and learn more about dApps and the blockchains and everything, I found NFTs through CryptoPunks. They really caught my attention. Bought a punk in February of 21, right before the big run up. Became a very engaged member of that community. And then NFTs as a whole, I saw a lot of opportunities for distribution and product, service, and so on. Meebits dropped on May 3rd of 2021. I originally did not like them. I was not too glued that week to my screen. My baby niece was being born, so I was happy with just my punks. And about a month later, a collector friend was like, "Have you really looked at the Meebits at depth?" I started sending me some of like the really cool traits that never make the floor, but were still accessible, kind of like the mids, right? And I just fell in love with the depth of that trait list, and I really represented a lot of different types of people, and I just started collecting them, became quite vocal about them. Obviously, a lot of other collections, they're a lot better because NFTs had gone into like their 2.0 era of utility and development and airdrops, and Meebits hadn't. So yeah, fast forward, Yuga bought punks and Meebits from Larva, and then the bear market hit. And so Yuga, when Garga came back, decided to just really focus on apes and that ecosystem. They found a really good home for punks with Mickey at Node. And then, they called me and they're like, "Listen, we know you love Meebits. Do you wanna buy them?" And so, yeah, we struck up a deal. We raised some funding from One Confirmation. Yuga has an equity stake in the company, and we launched Miko on Valentine's Day of this year, and have been working to develop and steward Meebits since then.
Yeah, awesome. It's an awesome project, right? The redheaded stepchild, that is kind of funny, as I have the redheaded Meebits pulled up here on the live stream. Were the details of the acquisition announced? So it's just they have a stake, you guys raise money to acquire it, and then Yuga just basically supports you guys in perpetuity because they have a stake in the company, and you basically go on with your venture. But the amount or anything wasn't ever announced?
No, so One Confirmation did publish their investment memo. We raised $3 million from them. The deal is a structure of a couple of financial instruments itself. There's a option component, there's an equity component, there was a cash component. So at the end of the day, we own Meepco. One Confirmation is our largest outside investor, and Yuga received an equity stake as part of the deal. So we're all aligned long term. There's a couple of assets within Yuga that are important for the Meebits ecosystem, namely Otherside, their metaverse. They built this incredible island called Metropolis, which we're working on developing for next year to really make it the home for Meebits. They also 850 Meebits, I think. And so that way we were able to align long term. Our goal is to eventually be the largest holder of Meebits. We hold 870. My goal for the next couple of years is to have 2,000 Meebits on our own balance sheet, and eventually do something cool more on the financial side with those, as we move forward in time, and digital asset ownership goes beyond buying Bitcoin and some of the other L1 tokens, and into some of these cultural assets.
Yeah, buybacks have really taken off recently now that regulatory clarity is not completely there, but starting to see the light on the other side. NFTs have been down quite bad over the last few years. Volume has kind of dried up, but the community has really stayed quite prideful and really checked in. How have you been able to navigate the sector over the past, I guess, year and a half since you've acquired the company, and what type of pivots or changes have you made since taking over the company or the collection?
Yeah, no, I think for us, having the whole team we hired from the community, every single person, it's 5 of us, has been literally a Meebit since their first day in Web3. And so, from being on the outside as just collectors and community members, I think we all had a very unified view of what Meebits, should be or could be. And for us, once we got the opportunity to steward them, we just got to work on those. So we have like 4 pillars that we like to quote as our kind of like our roadmap. Meebits, obviously, they're Larva Labs product. They're and in Larva Labs' own words, they are everything that they wanted to do with punks, but they couldn't do at the time. So art and provenance is our number one pillar. Meebits are art; they're digital sculptures that are fun and functional. Pillar two is just that Larva Labs, they're always pushing the space forward on the technology side. Obviously, punks were the inspiration for ERC-721 tokens, the whole concept of like your own marketplace and so many other things. They did it again with autoglyphs, with on-chain art, generative for the first time, inspire art blocks and all that stuff. Then with Meebits, not just full body, but also the fact that they come with 3D models. So when you buy a Meebit, you connect to the website, you can get your models and use them on different worlds, animate them, and so on. That's why tech innovation or tech forward is our second pillar. Our third pillar is just a fun utility, and that's kind of like just doing a lot of the cool things that people did in 21 and 22 without relying on the speculative aspect of it. So community meetups, cool things like we did a helicopter ride for 30 holders in Vegas over Ape Fest weekend, little activations like that where I think we're very lucky to have a community that's very long-term aligned. You kind of have to be, right? After Meebits went down so much and nothing was done with them. Actually, like I do see some parallels between the Meebits community and kind of like for me my experience with Emblem has been obviously Rare Pepes, and it's not folks that are looking for anything other than the enjoyment of collecting, knowing what they have, appreciating the provenance, the lore, the technicalities, and everything like that, right? So community first is our third pillar, and then the fourth one is wait, was that the fourth one? No, that was so sorry. Art and provenance, tech innovation, fun utilities third, and fourth is community first. And that's been the plan, and that's what we've been doing since. And I think everything that we do also comes with the knowledge of everything that's happened in the market, with and to other projects, right? Like things that were done really, really well, and maybe things that could have been done better. So definitely using our experience as collectors and community members of other communities to make sure that nobody knows they're making a mistake until 2020 hindsight. But it's good for us to know, like, hey, maybe that thing that people over-index at the time did not work, and now we know why. So it prevents us from going in that direction or doing something the same way and expecting different results, right? Which is what like the definition of insanity or something like that. So it's a lot of like using our own experience, looking at the space over the last 4 years, and really just having very, very low time preference, which is what I think is like the winning formula in crypto and really in life. It's you just kind of like you're not looking for like the dopamine hit tomorrow, because then you just need another dopamine hit the next day and the next day, and it just gets almost like into like kind of like addiction pattern with your time preference being over years or decades. Obviously you understand that it takes time to build something good, and you get that dopamine from a different source, which is like knowing that you're putting in the time and the effort to get a much more meaningful and larger outcome in the future.
Yeah, it's funny is we actually have a similar story in terms of getting to or moving from collectors to employees or builders. Chris and I were actually also just collectors of Emblem, and we're users of the product until we joined the company in 2022 and 2023. So, get to share those insights is not like the initial founder of something, but then coming in and taking your skills from being in the trenches of the NFT culture for a long time, and then coming in and applying it gives you kind of a unique perspective on the company moving forward, which I think I'm starting to see a little bit more common across the space, and not just NFTs, but some of the other sectors, as streamers and other individuals end up joining companies and becoming chief of vibes and different positions that are relative to your skills. But one thing I do want to focus on is Meebits strategy. We launched the Nakamoto strategy a few weeks ago and got a lot of attention. And as I started looking more into the strategies, I realized that this is almost probably the biggest thing to happen to NFTs in this past year, at least to gain some attention, And Meebits kept coming up as, I believe, the first non-punk strategy collection to launch, but also has a lot of volume and a lot of adoption. So as somebody who took the first leap of faith outside of Adam, the creator of TokenWorks, what did you see in the strategies that you decided to apply to Meebits? And now, 2 months later, having Meebit strategy live, what's your perspective on this emerging sector?
Yeah, no, I think you said earlier, right? It was probably one of the biggest things to come to NFT space in a while. What I saw was a flywheel that could actually tie the fungible token to the NFT, which is one of the missing links. Again, as we've seen over the last few years, fungible tokens get airdropped to NFT holders, and then that they kind of like go in different directions, almost form different communities at points. And obviously, there's good things to the fact that you increase the surface area of people that like your IP, because let's say a larger collection where the floor is $20,000, it's going to be hard for somebody to come in, but they can buy $20 worth of the token, and be part of the community. But we had been so that was a good kind of like step one for fungible tokens tied to NFTs. I think it was incomplete, and we were missing this bridge that the strategy tokens make, where people call price appreciation success in the space, which I think it's funny, but let's go with it, right? The success of the token, the price going up, it has a mechanism to support the floor price of the collection as well. And I thought that was very innovative. And so as soon as Meep Strategy went live, we made the announcement that we will use the royalties received from token trading to go and buy. Our first announcement was we were going to buy just Meebits. Again, kind of like a bit selfish in the sense that I want to buy up to 2,000 Meebits for treasury. So it was like, hey, here's some money. We're going to buy Meebits. And I realized we could have a little more impact in giving back to the strategy by buying the Meebits out of the strategy's own vault. Those Meebits that get listed at a 20% premium to where they were purchased. And so, kind of powering that flywheel to burn Meepster and just kind of make it very, very synergistic between, the fungible token community and then the NFT community. And so that's why we leaned in. I think it was pretty cool to see the reception, and then obviously that inspired. We have good relationships with a lot of the other teams in the space, GVC, Chimpers, and then you guys as well. So that's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, it is. And the one realization that I had after looking into strategies is that it's essentially this flywheel template, or you could call it an incentive model for NFT communities to apply to increase speculation or adopt the token in various ways. And you're the first one to realize that, hey, I can apply additional tokenomics on top of this, which then has spawned, at least through my research, maybe half of the strategies, including Nakamoto's strategy, to apply these different mechanics to it to really experiment. But now looking at, you've been doing this for, looks like September 18th. So celebrating 2 months today. Congrats on Meebster.
That feels like a year, man. It just like shocked me. No way, it's been only 2 months. Yeah, wow. All right, crypto time is just weird.
Dude, completely distort. Are there any surprises in terms of the community's reception towards it, or any types of changes that you've made over the past 2 months that maybe you can I guess share information for teams or individuals who are looking at adopting a strategy for their own collection?
Yeah, so I think for us, what was kind of like it was good that we were the first, and I love that. We inspire that. Obviously, I think as people looked at the strategy closer, they would have come to a similar conclusion, those that are aligned over the long term. The one thing that Meepster does not have that like the newer strategies does have is the ability to be transferable. And so unfortunately, given that the contract is not doesn't allow for transferability from wallet to wallet, to prevent people from going around the pool that enforces the royalties. it has limited some of the things that we wanted to do, right? Like, for example, being able to reward holders with token, or even taking the token to like buy some of the products that we've launched. Having said that, I do think that um, we will continue as soon as people are like, oh, strategies died because they're bad. No, I think the volume dried up and the prices came down because the whole market collapsed, not just NFTs, but the L1s and everything else. I think the beauty of strategy, and I think one of the key things for me is, again, over the long term, I do expect at least Meebit prices. I hope the rest of NFTs too to pick up again, and so the flywheel will just kicking as we go through time. And yeah, I think that's what I don't really see a negative to adopting a strategy at all. If anything, I think it's a positive kind of like convexity factor that can really kick in as things come back online, because obviously it's permissionless, right? It's deployed, nobody controls it. And so I think people can get very, very creative, just like we've seen with GBC and with Chimpers and you guys. And it really just gives the community a way to get in at the ground floor. And it's a very fair distribution of the token versus just kind of making it like an airdrop of something where people are going to be rushing for the exits, or like late entrants are going to be dumped on.
Yeah, I have here pulled up on the live stream. So some of the stats for Meebits Strategy: 893 holders, $591,000 market cap, $362,000 liquidity pool, and looks like a all-time high of about $7 million.
Yeah, it was like 7 mil.
Yeah,
yeah, that first
awesome.
like week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah, like listen, nobody likes to see a chart like that. Don't get me wrong, I hadn't looked at. I mean, I actually bought a bunch of like 6 million because I didn't want to buy before, because we obviously had such an overt influence on the performance of the token. And I didn't want anybody to be like, oh well, it's just pumping his back. But as I talked to more friends, they're like, no, dude, you should totally like participate. And then I guess they were just like selling it to me at the top.
Thanks for your sacrifice. That's funny. The cool thing about the strategies is that they work just as good on the way down as they do on the way up, actually. So, the flywheel is
That's
really
another thing. Yeah, and then for us, one thing that people don't talk a lot about it, but it's got what, like 120 odd Meebits in the strategy. Those are Meebits that got removed from circulation. And
exactly.
so, especially for a collection of 20,000, when there's like 300 NFT buyers out there, it's really, really good to kind of just have less tokens that could have a higher price impact on the way down when a market like the one we're experiencing. And I think that's also like pretty cool, because pretty much what you're doing is, instead of having like a human trader, human flipper trying to buy the floor and sell it 0.1 higher or whatever, and then freaking out when the market dumps, and then just taking a weak bid and just generating this cascades that we see in NFTs so often, even for projects without leverage like Meebits. Instead, now you have a smart contract that is never going to sell on a downswing. And if you're looking at it from a collection owner perspective, that's pretty cool. It's having a collar on your collection where, yes, when things rally, right, you're gonna have to like buy or like chew through one more floor. But I'd rather have that floor be available, when the market's going up, than get it be dumped when the market's going down. So that's another really, I think, positive impact of the strategies in raising that floor by 20%, and then not selling or not panicking on the way down.
Yeah, I have here pulled up on the stream. I'm on apecontrol.com, which has some strategies. So Meebits has 45 NFTs that have been sold, 210 ETH was spent, 50 ETH in buybacks, and asset value of the treasury right now is 141 NFTs at half an ETH, so 250,000 approximately. So really, strong numbers there. Chris, I'll pass off to you if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think that just like, some of the biggest critiques of the strategies that I've seen is just maybe a misunderstanding of the alignment between the community and the token. And in this industry, we've just become so like thinking that it can't be as expansive and that it's either one or the other. And so, I see having the strategy token as well as the NFT collection as additive, because there's a variety of people that would either prefer to buy each, or maybe some would prefer to be in the middle of that Venn diagram and buy both. How do you feel about maybe some sort of that criticism, and what other drawbacks might you see to a strategy, if any at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's free to criticize stuff on the internet, right? And we
Yeah,
see it a lot in
yeah.
crypto.
It actually
I had
pays.
I
It
was on
actually
a
pays. So,
Yeah, actually, you're right. It's incentivized, and
yeah.
I had a conversation on Spaces, I think, yesterday, where somebody was like, "Oh, well, crypto Twitter is supposed to be PvP," and I'm like, and it's like, you have to live through the toxicity. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you can just unfollow those, like, sad motherfuckers that have nothing else but to talk shit about somebody else's work online.
Exactly.
So yeah, obviously criticism is free, or in this case incentivized. I just, when I hear somebody criticize something, I just look at their argument, realize that it makes no sense and they're stupid. So I either not engage with them, because why would you lower yourself to talk to idiots? But if they actually are trying to make a good argument, I think it's hard to find one against strategies other than, like, well, I held this NFT because I thought I was going to get free tokens airdrop, right? In that sense, yes. But, like, I also ask myself, is that the type of holder that you want to have in this type of asset class that has thin liquidity, has large bid offer spreads? And I think for us the answer is no, right? Like, we want to have holders that understand that it's going to take time for the audience to grow, and for others to value their NFTs higher. And so, yeah, I again, for me, the drawbacks to Meepster has just been that it's not as flexible as to where we could do more things to develop it. So, early on we did this T-shirt, and all the proceeds went to, like, buy and burn Meepster. Um, but I can't take the Meepster as a payment for the T-shirt, for example. So it was more like, we had to go and manually do things. It's to the degree that, and obviously the platforms coming out here with Token Works, I think I haven't seen the details. We've been busy with some other Meebit stuff, but I would love to, like, see just more flexibility embedded into the strategies, so that you as a project manager could continue to innovate on the platform, as people have done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it comes from just like going back to what you said about short termism. Like, the biggest contrarian bet you can make in this industry at this point is just to have a long term vision, because everybody is so hyper focused on short termism. And they're like, if someone's buying the token, then that's not the next marginal buyer for the NFT, when actually they work in tandem together. And like Jake said, it's only been about a couple months of market research on this particular product, but how reflexive, it's been pretty stable on the way down. How reflexive does it get on the way up? And that's when it gets really, really interesting, because then not only is the token going up, but the actual treasury within the strategy is going up as well. And then the buyers that bought the token are wealthier. So there's a wealth effect within the token price that might flow back into the NFT. So a lot of these kind of attributes are additive and maybe even a bit exponential on the way up. So I think that just short-termism thinking is kind of plaguing the average holder that just wants their bags to go up immediately, but they're not thinking of how expensive they can go up on the way up. But you put yourself in a pretty good position, because Meebits have quite the lore. They've changed hands a few times from some pretty iconic people. They almost inversely to punks, where the community wanted them to do nothing. All you had to do was do something for Meebits, and it was almost like an overnight success. So was it a pretty obvious match for you? Obviously, based on whatever the price might have been, was the only maybe differential factor. Was it an easy kind of acceptance immediately, where you were like, oh, I have to do that, I don't have a choice? Or was there a bit of
No, it wasn't.
a debate, or where were you at?
I had just I was about to wrap up my first ever startup. It's called Popset. It was a social media app on Solana, kind of like similar to Zora, but without the speculative part. And that had been a fun but really tough experience, as we ran out of runway, and just looking at the money that I set aside to finance my life for a year without a paycheck, and I was ready to replenish that that fund. And so I had an offer, and we discussed this publicly on the Meebits podcast with Ian from Ledger. I actually had a really good offer to go join them as their head of global BD when you got called. And yeah, it wasn't an immediate yes, because as much as I love Meebits and obviously wanted to do something like this, it also involved making sure that I was in the right spot personally. Because I think that's important, right? Like, it's not just taking on things. It's like, hey, you're gonna be named the striker for the national soccer team going into the World Cup. Would you like to do it? Yes, I would love to do it. But am I the best person in the best moment right now to go represent Mexico at a global stage? The probably answer is no. I'm not. I'm almost 40 years old. Like, I can't run as fast as I get tired, right? And so it was. I like Meebits so much that I really had to make sure that I was going to be able to set myself up for success, because we want to see Meebits succeed. So the first person I called was Ian, and he was like, I really wanted you to work with me. We had been like talking about working together for a long time. He's like, but if there's one thing that you can do here that really could, cement your legacy, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it, is taking over Meebits. And then I called a couple of other friends. Raul Powell's become he's like my older brother. Same thing. It was literally unanimous kind of messaging. And then I called the guys at One Confirmation. They were eager to be a part of this, and not just investors. Actually, Mike on their investment team is very actively advising us and looking out for us and sending us ideas. So yeah, and it took me 24 hours to be like, okay, I'm in the spot where I think I'm the best person to put together a team that can be the best team to take Meebits to where they should be. And then yes, after that, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Meebits is awesome. The NFT community, in my opinion, just is unmatched comparative to the rest of the markets. It's interesting because NFTs they had a recent kind of run up, and then has kind of just fallen back down with the rest of the market. So we don't really know what the next evolution for NFTs is. From the emblem side of things, we've been discussing speculative vehicles or different types of apps to kind of put your NFTs to use. So we actually have built an app that I think we're going to release in the first half of next year to kind of embody this vision. But it was funny because as we had been building it, we saw strategies pop up, and we were like, wow, this is exactly along the lines of what we were thinking. People just need things to do with their NFTs. Now that the communities have been established, brands have been created. I know you guys are pushing into the metaverse as taking your Meebits into other side as well, other type of games. But do you think the next stage for NFTs is putting the NFTs to use in some capacity, or what is your mindset in terms of maybe forecasting where the NFT market should go heading into 2026?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, right, rough times for prices, along with a lot of other things, not just NFTs. I mean, you look across the world at watches, real estate, a lot of things like that. Maybe except for Pokemon cards. But for me, and one of the reasons why I've liked the Meebits since when I started liking them is that they're not just a JPEG. They are actually, a voxel digital sculpture created by the two most consequential artists of our generation, whose work sits at the Whitney, at the LACMA, at so many other museums, the Pompidou, and in that sense, I feel like there's intrinsic value to them. On top of that, as you mentioned, I do think having fun with your NFTs, or in this case with your Meebits, is a huge factor that will play a significant role. I guess I think we 4 years ago, where people were like, "Oh, the metaverse," going to that short-termism, like it wasn't going to be built overnight. No matter how much money you threw at it, like maybe the tech even wasn't there. Even like the wallet technology was not there to engage with the metaverse. And so, even Facebook changed their name. Now, as we are, 4.5 years removed from those moments, we're starting to see some of that materialize. So I do expect things like the other side to significantly make these types of NFTs that you can, use to represent yourself in games and in other worlds, um, much more desirable, right? Because for me, like Meebits, if you use them on the other side, I tweeted this out the other day, it's like driving a Ferrari. Like, can I get from here to Washington, D.C. driving a Nissan? Yes, I can. Or can I get to the Hamptons in a Volkswagen? And by the way, I love Volkswagens. Yes, I can. But if I drive an F40 or an F50 or, something like that, of course, that's going to be a lot more fun. So there's levels of utility now when it comes to actually them being beveling goods, which was one of the original thesis for NFTs. It's that ability to flex. And now we're taking it from, the 1 inch square Twitter profile to a place where you can actually participate online in the way that a lot of people had hoped for 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was always my vision, was being able to take NFTs kind of cross chains or cross worlds and being able to really have fun with them. But it seemed like, there's been a high emphasis on generating revenue or generating money, generating profits by flipping NFTs. And it seems like this is kind of just the crypto way, right? Everyone tries to maximize profits for an emerging sector. And then once the, kind of fire is put out and the crumbles form, right, you kind of just get the diehard community members who really love the products that they build, right? They acquire collections like Meebits, they join companies like Emblem and really try to change the industry moving forward. So from that standpoint, how would you frame like the Meebits culture and community now that, it's been a year, maybe 2 years of a bear market, and, you really have kind of the diehards? How is that really ossified in the community, and where's the focus of the community versus, your leadership of trying to take the collection to the next level?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I didn't mention on the last question is, for us, it's not just the metaverse, but also the real world, right? Like Meebits are sculptures. And so we've had a lot of success with like our 3D prints, some of the merch items that we've dropped that are actually like traits in the collection. So we have this like hoodie that we did with the hundreds that not just like, it's not a Meebit, printed in front of the hoodie, but it's actually a hoodie that was designed by Larva Labs and now you can wear in the physical world, and it really gets you closer to your Meebit and the Meebits collection, and gives people an ability to participate in the ecosystem without having to have a Meebit. As for the second thing that you mentioned, yeah, like listen, our community is awesome. We were quite active members in it before. We still are. Where all of us are in the Discord and the group chat quite actively. I think we'll never shy away from that because we're Meebit collectors and holders and fans first and foremost, and I think that's what is going to make Meebco very successful. But also the people that are Meebits. There's two types. They're like the whales that understand the long-term intrinsic value of Meebits and have 200 of them stashed away in a vault. And we've had a couple of large buyers be like, "Hey, I'm looking for 150, 200 Meebits." The easy call is to call the guy that has 300 Meebits, but they don't want to sell them. And I'm like, dude, I haven't even seen you once on Twitter and Discord. And they're like, yeah, I just don't want to sell them, period. And then there's the guys who, are more actively in the community, and we don't have real, it's kind of like flippers anymore. I mean, I'm surprised there's actually like any flippers left in the NFT space, but there's some. And Meebit holders are art lovers. They're fans of Larva Labs. They understand that value prop. I think they're just, they've been very supportive of everything that we've done. But for example, this picture that you're showing, I'm here watching the live stream, right? Like that's Matt and John up there. I think I'm a few seconds behind, but like that's Matt and John from Larva Labs, right? And so they're strategic advisors to Meebco. And when we made that announcement, like people were very, very, very happy. And it, completely tells us that, yeah, folks really like Meebits a lot because of Larva Labs and what they are, who made them, and the fact that they're still involved is really cool for them. So that's the type of community that we have. And you'll see next year some of the activations and events that we'll do will be more in line with that kind of like, Meebits brunch where you can talk to people and like over a coffee, don't have to be yelling over like loud music in the darkness. Don't get me wrong, I love clubbing, but our community is more I would think more like gallery vibes than like, dive bar or like raver vibes.
Hey, you're talking to two former guys who worked in the nightclub scene in Vegas for a decade. So totally feel you on the on the
Oh
club
man, I love
vibes.
the nightclub scene. I was here in New York. My best friend was one of the best promoters in like the 2010s. So love it. But yeah, too old now for that.
Yeah, and no one tells you once you cross 30 that you can't be staying out till 3, 4 in the morning anymore.
For me, it was 35. That's when I really like. I was just in Vegas solo for the weekend, and Cascades on a Zook. Now been
Mhm.
a huge fan. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just go and like whatever, like listen to music, and then set starts at 1:30 a.m. I'm like, what? No, I'll be like 5 hours asleep by then. Especially with like the New York jet lag, which is not bad, but 3 hours, 1 in the morning becomes 4 in the morning.
It's so true. Well, next time you're out here, definitely hit us up, and I would love to take you out and have a good time out in the city. It's always a fun and crazy time. I got to know what is an AI plushie? We run an AI project called Agent Hustle, which is kind of like an AI terminal, but this is the first time I've seen an AI plushie that's been tokenized. So can you take me through what this is?
Sure. Yes. So we partner up with this company called Curio. They're an amazing startup. They built a like a voice box that you can put inside a plush toy. And so it runs an AI model, and you can talk to the character as you would talk to like, a person or chat GPT. um the character has its own voice, its own personality. Obviously it's a toy, so it's geared towards children. The model is kid proof. You can't ask it anything that you wouldn't want, conversation topic with a child. And we're bringing visitor to life. So within the Meebit types or character types, you have the dissected, which are the rarest one, and then the visitor, which is this alien inspired character. And we are, yeah, right now we're minting an early access pass for this. We have 1,000 units that's already been produced. They're ready to ship first week of December. And as you can see there on the website, like they did their last drop, or the first drop with Grimes last year, and that sold out in like 7 minutes. And so we wanted our Web3 family to get a first crack at buying this. So we're doing it as an NFT mint. People can pay 0.05, and they'll get the NFT that has that art that we have on the website, as well as a plushie shipped to their door. If you're in the US, the mint price covers shipping and taxes. If you're abroad, we'll have to bill you independently for shipping. And the toy's awesome. I mean, we have a full Meebits podcast episode that I did with this. It's quite responsive. It's programmed to, have a conversation with kids and really trigger like curiosity about math and science and technology. So you can ask it anything. You can ask it, hey, explain how a computer works. What's a silicon chip? How many moons does Venus have? Tell me the rules of basketball. Tell me a story. Let's play a game. I tested the prototype, for over a month by myself, just carrying it around everywhere that I was going, and it's I became really attached to the character. It's really really fun. So that's the AI enhanced plush that we have right now. It's minting on OpenSea. And then as part of the digital rewards, because obviously we're doing an NFT, we announced last week as well, you'll get a mini me this character that's playable on the other side. And so people who mint the NFT will be able to claim this for free in a couple of weeks once it's ready to go. And you'll be able to use that character on the other side, which I think is pretty cool because the character is really, really cute.
Yeah, it is. It is awesome. I got one final question for me. And you are building in this direction, but as of, I guess you'd say maybe, sorry, I got a phone call.
Hello?
Yep. Sorry, I got a phone call as I was speaking. You guys, Meebits, obviously with Meebit Toys, you're kind of heading in this direction where a lot of other NFT projects have started. God damn it. Another spam call. Hate that. Here, let me try this again. Meebits AI Toys.
You gotta stop ghosting girls, man.
Meebits AI Toys is kind of going in this direction where multiple NFT projects have started going towards over the last few years, which is expanding a business model outside of just tokenization on chain of digital collectibles, but creating IRL collectibles or IRL items, right? Pudgy Penguins is in Walmart. You guys have AI toys. Saw Azuki pivot towards trading card games. What's your perspective on just NFT projects and builders in general deciding, hey, you know, there's not enough liquidity on chain to support runway so that we can keep a profitable business, and creating other type of projects? And how, and with you guys, how has the community responded to creating, you know, IRL type items?
Yeah, I think that's a balance, right? I think one of the biggest issues I have with the NFT space is that people see every project as like comparative to each other. When in the reality, right, it's like it's different types of characters, different types of IP, different types of collector community. So I think it's no secret to anybody that's been around, right? Like you can't, there's no royalties, which was an awesome business model. I'm sad to have missed those times. Um, you wanna, in our case, right, the sustainability of Meebits, Meebits will be online forever, right? As long as Ethereum keeps producing blocks. But we do want to be the ones that are stewarding and developing them. And for that, obviously, we need to pay salaries and we need to make sure that we have, resources to build what we want to build. And we have an incredible set of IP. So how do we best, work towards a couple of different goals? Which is one is getting Meebits known around the world. Um, I think that's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get there as people come to learn more about Larva Labs through Punks and Autoclips, Quine, and Meebits. The second thing is, how do we make sure that we're sticking around? And that is being able to generate some revenues in different kinds of ways. Obviously, physical product is, I think, the most obvious for folks because, yeah, when you have an engaged base of collectors, not just flippers, people want to support their team, right? They want to represent their team. That's kind of like sports teams, right? Like if you live in New York and you're a Jets fan, well, first of all, I'm really sorry for you. But even so, right, people still go and buy the jerseys, the shirts, the mugs, the hats. And that's just a very easy way to showcase your affinity towards that project. And I think in that sense, it's a bit of one of the lowest hanging fruits that if you do it well, accomplishes both things, which is one, making sure the collection is more well known, and then two, again, is being able to provide a product that if you pay $60 for a T-shirt, people feel like, okay, great, I don't need an airdrop on top of this. I don't need to turn around and sell this T-shirt for like 120 to feel that I didn't get rugged. Like you bought a T-shirt, that's great. You're comfortable and you're happy that you made this purchase, understanding that it's a product and not some sort of like lottery ticket that the team now has to develop for you to make money. This whole idea that like people at the head of projects are like investment managers on behalf of a bunch of random internet strangers is just so whack. And for us, it's like being able to sell cool products that the community, in this case, like the Snouts hoodie that we did with the hundreds, it's people really wanted it. We sold out and they won ComplexCon. We had to do a restock to make sure that we had inventory for the online sale because we didn't want to leave people that didn't go to ComplexCon outside of it. So I think everybody's going to try to make money because you want to make money as a business, you have to. But two, there's a good way in which you can combine a couple of your goals and make it synergistic in that sense, where the company can sustain itself, but the collectors, fans also feel really happy with their purchase and not like they're buying something just because they want to speculate on it. And then when the reality hits that it was just a T-shirt, right, they feel like they've been wronged by the team, because that does the opposite, right? You no longer have a client, and then you'll now have a person that hates you.
Yeah, it's a good way to phrase it. Chris, do you have any final questions or comments for Sergio?
Yeah, just I love the array of products that you guys are offering and just kind of the surface area that you're able to cover. One quick question that I did have, just as you said that Meebits were more kind of fine art focused and more like gallery focused. How is like the reception given the current times of maybe some of these, art houses and curators and things of that nature? I think it was Sotheby's or one of the big auction houses that maybe discontinued their digital kind of segment
Christie's
category. Christie's, yeah. And so it seems like it might be a little bit rough over there. maybe what's the temperature, and seems completely obvious that, and plus they already had such a track record in the industry before. What's like the disconnect, and maybe just a general update?
Yeah, I think for us again, we're taking it you can't just walk into a place and be like, these are pieces of art, take it. It's more building the story and the narrative around it so people come to you, which I think that's how things go from there's fads and then there's actual things that are building meaningful legacies over time, right? You think about the Hello Kitties of the world, and not really art, Hello Kitty, but it took a while for it to build, rather versus some of the other IP that's more like doesn't matter how much marketing money you spend, it's a flash in the pan. And so with the art side, it's been good. Honestly, it's been good. So we displayed Meebits at the Art Blocks Gallery in Marfa. We had 100 3D printed Meebits. Again, one of the cool things about Web3 is that you can get your community involved. So instead of just printing 100 of the 800 Meebits that we hold at Meevco, we invited collectors and holders to order their own 3D print or I guess pay for it. We showcased theirs. They were part of the first ever Larva Labs gallery show with their full body of work, Punks, Glyphs, Meebits, and Quine. And then we shipped those to their holders. So that's a pretty cool way of connecting the community as well as displaying Meebits. And that got a lot of good feedback. We have an art-related announcement that we're going to make here in the next week and a half at most. You guys see that. And yeah, little by little, we've had more conversations about, how do we bring Meebits into the world of art? How do people really understand that they're not just like, a JPEG, but rather a digital sculpture that Matt and John, built with math and code. And so, yeah, it's been pretty fun. Again, it's more of the long, this is like, I can print t-shirts tomorrow. I can't print the art world recognition. It's just more about really making sure that we build the story correctly. So when they come, they are like, okay, you guys were right. And so it's been fun, but it's more longer dated. As far as the overall digital market, you just saw Art Basel announce they're gonna have 10 digital first galleries on the main floor. I think that speaks volumes. And as the world gets the boomers out of the way and Gen X and millennials, start to have even more wealth, and then Gen Z, obviously, we're going more digital. That is not, I think anybody's not going to fight that assertion. And with that will come digital art, video game inspired art. Look at the stuff that people are collecting today, like Pokemon cards. I mean, man, the amount of freaking Pokemon cards that I had 20 years ago, or whatever it was, right, compared to like what they're worth today. I played Super Trainer Showland, which was like the national championship for Pokemon trading card game, on the Queen Mary in '97, and they gave me so many freaking packs, and I just ripped them all open, and I was looking for people. I mean, for like the cards for my deck. So of course, as people get older, we start valuing more. I think that's the success of punks, because they're pixelated and they look like the video game art of the '80s. I think that people get older, right? Punks were not art up until a few years ago in people's minds. Now they're in museums. As younger generations get older, then Meebits are definitely going to be in that category.
Epic. Yeah. I think it reminds me of just like three bear cycles in a row. Goldman Sachs like shut down their crypto and their digital asset desk pretty much like directly at the bottom each and every time. So I think it just speaks more to like the slow moving pace of these institutions where the decision gets moved to shut down, and then by the time it actually gets shut down, it's probably time that it needs to start back up. So it seems like we're in a good spot, but I appreciate all your insights. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, Sergio, I really appreciate you for sharing your time with us, dude. Awesome. Dude, just awesome story, taking over Meebits, really going full force, creating multiple product lines and really kind of experimenting. I think that's something that the NFT space still kind of embraces, is trying new things, which is really exciting. So, dude, best of luck with Meebits Strategy. We're a fan. We're going to continue to build our stuff over at Emblem and Nakamoto Strategy, and maybe we'll intersect at some point in the future.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the time. And yeah, feel free to at any point in time reach out about strategy tokens. I'm excited for the platform to come out. And yeah, I really like that NACA has a strategy, because unfortunately I'm priced out now. But if I can have some exposure with a NACA strategy token, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Really appreciate everyone who joined us, and also all the people who are on the live stream. Make sure that you follow Meebits and Sergio, and also make sure you give the Emblem Vault account follow to stay up to date with everything we're doing in NFT land in Nakamoto Strategy. Until then, we'll be back here on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone have a fun and safe Thursday, and we'll see you guys soon. And Sergio, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much, guys.